It seems like every baby goes through a stage of throwing food from their high chair. It can be so frustrating. I'm going to give you my best advice coming up. Hi, welcome to the Peaceful Home. I'm TeresaElling, if we haven't met. I'm a parenting coach and I've been teaching parenting classes for over 20 years. I recently began a series on consistency. The very first video explains how you as a parent absolutely have the skill to be consistent. You might not realize it, but I show you how to apply that. I will link that video below and the others in this playlist. But today's dilemma comes from a viewer question. At what age can we start being consistent? For example, not throwing food. My baby is 16 months. Clara, thank you for your question. It's a really good one. And I will tell you that consistency practically starts at birth. As soon as you see your child doing things that are not good for you, the family, for them, you're wanting to begin to train. Now, of course, there are many ways to do this, but in general, we don't want to allow misbehavior to continue. And that is where the consistency comes in. That means we respond immediately. We don't let it go. We don't tell our child to stop and then ignore it when they don't. That is the basis of consistency, that when we say something, we mean it. We say what we mean and we mean what we say, and we follow up. Now, today I want to talk a little bit about the difference between an infant or very young toddler and an older toddler or child. So with a baby, they are learning rapidly, but it takes a while. I like to think of building muscle. If you are doing strength training, the way that it works is you work out, you actually cause tiny little micro tears in a muscle that then have to heal over a day or two. And when they heal, you begin to build muscle. The rest time is the most important thing. And it's really the same with our kids and any learning, in fact. When we learn information and we go to sleep at night, our brain goes to work to sort through and remember what we're learning. This is why we do need a lot of grace for our children. We need to be consistent, we need to follow up immediately and not allow them to disobey without a consequence. But we need to realize they may do the very same thing the next day. And our job is not to go, oh my gosh, this doesn't work. I'm not going to bother. You have to be consistent. Imagine if you were teaching your child to read and after the first day or two or week, they weren't reading. You wouldn't give up. It doesn't make sense. It's a process. Now, I've mentioned that we do not repeat commands. If it's very obvious your child didn't hear you, that's a different thing. But we follow up immediately after the first time. Now, this is where it's a little different for babies. If I had a 5-year-old that threw food and I said, please stop throwing food, and they continued, there would be a consequence. If the next day they did it, I wouldn't even give a reminder, there would be an immediate consequence. In other words, on day 2, I wouldn't repeat the command of please stop throwing food. I did that the day before. A 5-year-old knows better. So I would ask them to come with me, immediately remove them from the situation, have them in timeout until I can be calm myself and have a plan to move forward. But with an infant, they're learning the language for one thing. What does that even mean, don't throw food? So it's going to take a little bit longer. This means maybe they're sitting in their high chair, you're sitting right next to them, and when they throw food, we say, no thank you, and we get the food and we put it back on the tray. Food stays on the tray. If they throw it again, we'll get it again and we'll repeat it, because each time we're saying it, we're reinforcing what that means. After several times, I might get a little more serious. Make sure to look them right in the eye. No thank you. No throwing food. Food stays on our tray. I want to make sure that I'm giving grace for the process of them learning language. Now, after maybe a couple days of this, I'm going to ramp it up to the next level. One thing that I've noticed is that children will often play with their food or throw food when there's a lot of it on their tray and they're not hungry or they're done eating. One of the best things you can do is give them one piece at a time at this point. Now, I know parents will say, I don't have time for this. Like, I give them their food and I've got stuff to do. You know what? This is the most important job you have. And your consistency and your follow through starts now. And we're talking 10 minutes. You need to sit with them. If they throw their food, then you say, uh-oh, we don't throw food. Food stays on the table. And I probably wouldn't give them any more. Now I'm going to wait. If they start asking for more, then I might give them one piece and see if they eat it. If they throw it, no more food, at least not for a while. Maybe I'm finishing my meal. Maybe at that point I am clearing or starting some dishes and I can come back. Would you like more? And if so, it's going to be one piece. If they throw it, no thank you, all done. And I'm going to get them out of the high chair and set them on the ground. No more fuss about it. No lecturing, no angry looks. That's it. They will quickly learn after this that if they throw their food, they're going to be excused. And after a few days of this, the first time of throwing food, I would say, no thank you, all done. And I would just lift them out of their high chair and basically kind of ignore them. We don't want to give them a lot of attention at that point. Now, this might seem like a very inconsequential thing to be worrying about, to be taking the time with, but this is where it starts. This is the start of your parenting journey, where when you say something, it has weight, that you expect your child to listen. So it is never too early to be consistent as a parent. Let's go back to the 5-year-old. If you saw my video on bringing consistency into the home, it's a pretty lengthy one. I suggest you maybe listen to it like a podcast in the car, but I go over a lot of this in detail, exactly what to do step by step. So 2 of the things that I've talked about is intentional training for the purpose of allowing your child to practice good behavior. You want to do that by setting up training sessions. I talked about that in that video, so I won't repeat it all here. The second part of that is the consistency and follow-up that happens after the training. So we've already done our week-long, 2 weeks of positive training with a reward. My kids absolutely know the drill at mealtime, what is expected of them, and now my 5-year-old is throwing food. If we have practiced and they have been thoroughly trained, I will not even repeat a command. I will say, Johnny, come with me, please. Bring him over to a place away from the dining table. We do not discipline our children in front of others. We don't correct them unless it's absolutely necessary and can't be avoided. We never want to cause undue embarrassment to a child. At this point, I would probably go back over to Johnny a couple minutes later. Hey, why are you sitting here? I threw food. What have we been training for? I'm sorry, Mom. I know I'm not supposed to. Okay, I forgive you. Thank you for your apology. I think you need to say sorry to the family because that was disrespectful to everyone. Okay, so maybe you take Johnny back to the table. He says, sorry, I threw food, everyone. Everyone says they're sorry. You go on with your meal. Awesome, great. If it were to happen again, now I'm going to say, Johnny, come with me, please. Have a seat. And he's going to sit there until our meal is over. And he will not be eating. At that point, if you are willing to draw a tough line and say, you absolutely know what is right and you're choosing not to do it, my job is to be consistent and make sure that there is a consequence for that so that you learn now when you're 5, not when your employer at 25 is trying to get you to do your work, trying to get you to listen. This is how our kids learn. If Johnny complains, I would say, hey, no fussing, please. You know the rules. You chose to throw food again, so you are done with the meal. and there's no more food. There's no, oh, I'll make you a PB&J later. No. And when they're sad about that, you can say, buddy, I'm really sorry. I know you're hungry, and I'll fix a great breakfast for you in the morning. But you're not going to give in. You're also not going to get angry because the punishment is doing its work. You can show empathy and compassion and trust that he's going to learn from his mistakes and do a great job the next day. In this way, you are speaking life over him. Maybe when you tuck him in bed, you remind him, I know dinner was hard tonight, but I don't think we'll have to do this again. I believe in you. Don't allow your kids to get bored or be full with a bunch of food on their plate when you're in training. If they've finished, clear their plate so that you're not allowing this type of behavior to be easy. If you're interested in more parenting content around mealtime, would you let me know in the comments below? Do you want information on how not to have a picky eater, how to have good table manners, how to have great table manners when you're out? That's one of my specialties, so let me know if you're interested in that or if you have any questions at all. Thank you so much for joining me today on The Peaceful Home. Have a great day.